Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I hope you are all okay. It is Thursday. It is day 4 of our writing week where we're spending together writing our story. Let's just say hello and good morning to some people. Remember, the question and answer button is open. I can see there are all numbers are going up: 40, 41, 42. Good morning to everyone that's just logged in. Let's say a couple of good mornings to people. Good morning, Hattie. Good morning, Elliot. Morning, Bella. Hi, good morning. Poppy, morning Esther, hi Dilly, hi Naya, hi Hayden, good morning Harrison, hello James, hello Jacob, hi Jack, hi Jesse and Jimbo, hi Megan, hi Ella, hi Lexi, hi Hannah, hi Dilly, hello Harry Potter group, good morning, hello Ruby. There's an echo on, is there? Echo, 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 echo. Good morning Ava. Morning, Connie. Fantastic. Really nice to see you all this morning. Good morning, Megan. Brilliant. Good morning, Isla. Really nice to see you this morning. Now, yesterday we spent our lesson creating tension, where we were creating that sense of excitement. Well, what we're going to do today is we're going to write a really effective action sequence. Morning, Charlie. Good morning. So let me share my screen with you. I'll put me in the corner. And then we can have a look at what we're writing today. So it's going to be a really effective action sequence. So yesterday we built tension. We kind of wound up that spring to kind of make it seem tense, like we knew something was going to happen. Well, today we're going to release that spring. So we're going to need a big whoosh of excitement and energy, and we're going to create a really effective action sequence. Now, a really effective action sequence is one that takes through your reader exactly what happens blow by blow, as it were. So what we don't want to do is then say, and then the dragon had a big fight, then they went home, then they did this, then they did that, then everyone lived happily ever after. Because we've spent so much of our week this week building up to this is kind of like the peak of that story mountain. So we don't want to waste that by just going, and then this happened, then this happened, then this happened, then this happened, and then they lived happily ever after. So we really want to slow down our writing today to include the important details. So if we're going to be successful today, we're going to need some success criteria, and here they are. So we're going to use subordination, so as, while, whenever. We're going to need to use fronted adverbials for time and manner, so just then, at that very moment, while her back was turned. And we're going to use some show not tell sentences to show emotions. Now, a show not tell sentence is when we show the actions rather than naming the feeling. And that's really important because really good writers do that. The big question we're going to answer today, though, is how is she, our main character, going to get out of the situation she finds herself in? So we're going to recap where we got to yesterday in our story. So this was my version, and like yesterday, I'm going to play some music that goes along with it. So remember, in this tension building section that we wrote yesterday, we want that music to slowly build that excitement. So I'm going to read what I wrote yesterday along to some music to help us do that. Indigo walked down the mountain, slipping and sliding on loose rocks when she realised she wasn't alone anymore. She could sense another being near to her. Close enough to touch was a large talon gripping the rock nearby. Rough metallic scales covered the talon and the arm of the creature, spreading out to large wings that were twice the size of Indigo's entire body. A powerful neck led to a menacing head, complete with glaring eyes and mean teeth. Indigo froze. She'd never seen a dragon before. Her heart beat fiercely in her chest. Backing away slowly, she staggered and slipped on a nearby stone, falling back. The dragon heard the noise and whipped its head around. It stopped, it stared, it sniffed the air. Indigo jumped up and ran as fast as she could, but the dragon had got her scent. Closer and closer he came, faster and faster, until he was ready to pounce. And so what we're going to do today is write the next part. So we're going to write the set of actions that are going to help our character get out of the situation. I'm going to leave that music paused because I think that's a really good moment where the music was about to leap in to something more exciting after building that tension as well. So let's have a look at what might help her get out of the situation. Now, I thought of a few options that might be plausible for the kind of story we're writing. So on our screen, we've got there, if we go from the top, we've got another warrior on a horse in his armour. Is that a warrior that's going to be passing nearby that's going to save her? Or is he going to throw her a sword just in time to defeat the dragon? They're going to do it together. We've got in the top right hand corner a magical book with a dragon on the front. Is that something she's going to find that might help her cast a spell? Is it going to tell her how to defeat the dragon? Is it something she's read before and she casts her mind back to remember what she has to do if she's ever faced with a dragon? We look at the two bottom options. We've got some giant eagles. Is it going to be a giant eagle that's going to swoop in and combat the dragon, allowing her to sneak away? Or perhaps we've got a very magical looking character that's coming from the castle that may come and save her. Now, we've all written our own versions of the story. So today I'm going to let you choose which picture you think is most appropriate to the story you've written. I've picked a picture of what I would like to happen next. But at this point in time, you can choose your own option to write this next part of that story. So just take a moment and go with your gut instinct. Which of these people or objects or beasts are going to be the thing in your story that allows your main character to either defeat the dragon or escape from the dragon? Take a moment, go with your gut instinct. Which of these tickles your fancy? Because it's about what we would like to write as authors. Okay, I'll tell you which one I've chosen. I'm really quite taken with the idea of this giant eagle swooping down, fighting the dragon in midair. I think that's what I think is going to happen next in my version of the story. So now we know that, and we know what's likely to happen. We need to think about how our character is going to feel and going to react. So what I've done is I've found this image, which I think will help us show, not tell those emotions. So on the right hand side, you can see a grid, and inside that grid, it has different emotions or feelings, and underneath are words which are how we show those emotions. So let's look at the top left hand corner, afraid. Now I think my character probably is going to be afraid. So when people are afraid, their hands are shaking, they're breathing hard, they may bite their nails, they may try and hide behind an object, their knees might wobble, they may whimper, that kind of noise. Or if they are very hot because they've just been fighting, you might have a bright crimson face. You might fan yourself with your hand or wipe the sweat off, might pant, you might move slowly or have a drink of cold water. Same if you're shocked, your jaw drops, you drop to your knees, your heart beats fast. You might put your hands over your mouth, and your mouth is wide open. So using some of these ideas, I thought, well, actually, if I could combine some of these actions, it helps me tell the reader what it is my character does. And by showing them what my character is doing, I can make them make an inference about how that character's feeling. So for afraid, I took those ideas and I put them into this sentence. Her hand shook, her mouth went dry, and she opened her mouth to scream. Do you remember yesterday we talked about patterns of 3? We've got 3 actions in that sentence, but this time we've got 1, 2 and 3 actions. You could write a 1 action, 2 actions and 3 actions in your story. Again for hot. Panting, she wiped the sweat which was now dripping down her face. In this sentence, I've chosen panting with a comma at the front because that's showing what she's doing. Panting, comma, she wiped the sweat which was now dripping down her face. I've used a fronted adverbial there. And then with her heart drumming against her cheek, that should say chest, boys and girls. That's a bit of a silly typo from me. With her drumming against her chest, she dropped to her knees in shock. So again, I've combined 2 actions there using a fronted adverbial. With her heart drumming against her chest, comma, she dropped to her knees in shock. Now, on the Google Drive, I've put a selection of these emotions and how we show those emotions or feelings with actions to help you write yours today. But I've also got a couple of ideas there that might help you out. So let's start and think ahead now to what might happen. As I said earlier, when we are writing action, what we can't do is just throw it all away in 1 or 2 sentences. So I need to think a bit carefully about how my action is going to unfold. A bit like if you imagine when you watch a film and there's an action sequence in a film, there are lots of different camera shots that tell our story. Or when you read a cartoon, the action is spread across several different frames. So if I think about what's going to happen with my story, well, I think really what's going to happen is I think the eagles are going to appear, perhaps from across the horizon. Perhaps they'll shout or squawk, and then I think the dragon will notice them, and then the eagle and the dragon will slowly come together and clash in the middle of the valley. Maybe the eagle will scrape its talons across the dragon's back, revealing, oh, let's say something gruesome, black, thick blood, and purple flesh underneath the scales. Perhaps the dragon will then release this great big burst of fire. Now, I've got this action happening, but what about our character? I think with these 2 creatures fighting, my character is going to use it as an opportunity to escape. And so while this is going on, I think she's going to gather her senses and she's going to run down the mountainside down to safety. Now, to help you go slowly through the action, we're going to have a look at using some of those front adverbials. So I thought of some which I think might be useful for us to use. So we can use just at that moment, while she was looking up, swiftly across the mountainside with great courage. Now these aren't just the only sentence starters you can use. We're going to need to add some extra detail to these, and I'll show you how we've done those, how I've done that when I show you my example. But you can see what I've done is I haven't gone then. I haven't just said then the eagle and the dragon had a big fight and everything went away and used it all in one sentence. I've tried to break down it happening. So just at that moment, perhaps that's when we hear the eagles. While she was looking up, she saw them. Swiftly, the dragon might rise into the air, and then across the mountainside, maybe the sounds of the battle we could describe, and then with great courage, that might be when she picks herself up and runs down that mountain. So what I'm going to do now is show you my example that I've written. Now, unlike the other examples that we've shown this week, I haven't done the whole of this section. I've only done the start of it because I wanted to show you actually this part of our story is almost perhaps the longest section that we're going to end up writing. So let me show you what I've done as an example. I've kept those sentence starters in red so you can see how I've spaced out those sentence starters and inserted extra detail in there. So I'll read it through to you once, then I'm going to play the music that I played in when I read the work we did yesterday, and so you can see how we have that moment of tension and how it's released with this action. Just at that moment, when all hope was lost, she heard a strong cry carry across the wind. Then another. What was it? The dragon, which was by now almost pinning her against the rock face, turned its vicious face towards the horizon. Indigo followed his glare. While she was looking up, she saw an outline coming closer to her. An eagle, larger than any she'd ever seen, soared towards them on the winds, a steely glint in its eye. Swiftly, the dragon raised its giant bulk onto its back 2 legs and roared. Her hands shook, her mouth went dry, and she opened her mouth to scream. The dragon reached up, flapped its leathery wings, and burst up into the sky. Across the mountainside, the shadows of the 2 beasts raced towards each other. The dragon roared as the eagle swooped down, gouging flesh from the beast's back. I quite like the way I've written beast's back. The alliteration having the 2 B's, beast's back, makes it sound really exciting. Now, as you can see, I haven't even written about what Indigo does, or I haven't really gone into that much detail yet about what happens to the dragon. So I've written several sentences just starting to describe the action, like using those camera shots or like using those frames on a comic strip. So now I've got my 2 creatures fighting. Now my character can escape, but I've still got to answer some questions in my writing. So what's going to happen to the dragon? Who's going to win out of that battle? Where is my main character going to end up? Now, it's really important that we don't forget the little details. So we need to carry on with the level of detail that we've started with to finish. I wanted just to draw your attention to a couple of tricks that we've talked about earlier in the week that again I've used in this action paragraph here. You can see I've used some small sentences, and I've got some sentences that actually get smaller. Just at that moment when all hope was lost, she heard a cry carry across the wind. That's a really long sentence, and we've got an embedded clause there where all hope was lost. Then another. So I've gone from a long sentence with an embedded clause to a 2-word sentence. Another, then a 1-word sentence. So again, I'm using that trick that we talked about yesterday when we built tension to create that excitement here. What was it? I've used a rhetorical question here because I want the reader to ask the question, what was it? What is that making that cry that carries across the wind? So by our character thinking, what was it? It also makes us as readers think, oh, what is it? The dragon, which was now by pinning her against the rock face, turns its vicious face towards the horizon. Long sentence. Indigo followed his glare. Shorter sentence. So you can see how I'm alternating some longer sentences and shorter sentences. And when I've described what she does to show those emotions, her hand shook, her mouth went dry, and she opened her mouth to scream. I've described her actions. I haven't put she was terrified. She was scared, because I don't need to, because I've shown what her actions would be, and my reader can guess and make those inferences. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to play the music from where we left off, so you get that sense of action building through. Just at that moment, when all hope was lost, she heard a strong cry carry across the wind. Then another. What was it? The dragon, which was now almost pinning her against the rock face, turns its vicious face towards the horizon. Indigo followed his glare. While she was looking up, She saw an outline coming closer to her. An eagle, larger than any she'd had ever seen, soared towards them on the winds, a steely glint in its eye. Swiftly, the dragon raised its giant bulk onto its back 2 legs and roared. Her hands shook, her mouth went dry, and she opened her mouth to scream. The dragon reached up, flapped its leathery wings, and burst up into the sky. Across the mountainside, the shadows of the 2 beasts raced towards each other. The dragon roared as the eagle swooped down, gouging flesh from across the beast's back. Now listen to the music now. As it builds, creates a crescendo, a moment of excitement, where I would carry on describing what happened to my character, what happened to my dragon. And now in this part of the music, I can imagine my character escaping. She's running down the mountainside, dodging the rocks that are falling around her. The danger isn't over yet, but still coming closer. Until she reaches safety, where she can relax. So your job today is to create a really effective action section for your story. We've described our character and where they were. We know where they were going, we don't know why. We know something went wrong, we built tension yesterday. Today is the day to really enjoy yourselves and write a brilliant action sequence using the tricks we've talked about. Now, tomorrow, we're going to round up our story. So we're going to talk about where our character ends up, how she's feeling, and again, we're going to use some of those show not tell sentences. What our job will be tomorrow is then linking all of our story sections together to make sure they flow really nicely into one story. There are a couple of little bits of advice I'm going to give. Number 1. Don't introduce lots of different things that happen here, because that might mean your story loses its cohesion, loses how it links together. So stick to one thing coming to help, and there being one form of action sequence and battle. Okay, keep that constrained to make your writing really effective. So, boys and girls, that's it for today. Let's just have a little look down the list and see who else we've got with us. We've got Lorna, hi, Florence, Jack, Hattie, Hannah, Holly, hi, Isabel, hi, Lexi. Morning, Lizzie. Good morning, Elliot. Yes, you can make something up to defeat the dragon. If you're not keen on the options I've given you and you can think of something even better, absolutely. Jack, it could be a friendly dragon. Brilliant idea. Well done. Ruby spotted a great sentence to Magpie. You can magpie away. Over your birthday tomorrow. I'll see you tomorrow and then we can say a big happy birthday then. Boys and girls, it's really nice to see you this morning. Really nice to talk to you one more time. Tomorrow is the last day of our story writing competition for the week. So I will see you then, same time tomorrow. Do some fantastic writing. I can't wait to read these when they start coming in. Remember, don't email it in yet. We're going to put it all together and do a finished product. I was talking to Mr. Manns yesterday and he had a brilliant idea about how we could present our stories at the end of this. And I'm going to share that with you tomorrow as well. So until tomorrow, goodbye, boys and girls. I will see you soon. See you later.